I had a question from a beginner fingerstyle student. Does the fingerpicking pattern stay the same throughout this song? Now, the answer to that question is something that a lot of classical players already know the answer to, but it is an answer to how we simplify the process of learning every piece of music, fingerstyle or otherwise. If we have the notes in front of us in any form, tab or on the staff, it doesn't matter. We can use those notes to pre-read the piece. With beginner students, I suggest pre-read one measure at a time, then play it a little bit, then pre-read the next measure. First, so what does it mean to pre-read the piece? First of all, I want to understand any rhythmic patterns. So what I do is I start off and I tap the piece out. All our music is fundamentally made at a basic level anyway of quarter notes and eighth notes. So our basic pattern that we're working against in a 4/4 piece is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? And I Remember Everything by John Prine, the rhythm goes 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Like this. So it's 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm just counting. As I'm looking at this measure, I'm counting 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. I don't have to know the notes initially. I can just tap it out. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. That exercise alone simplifies my next attempt, which is to try and play this measure. Once I've identified the main rhythmic pattern on the main riff, or the first chunk, then one by one I look at all the other patterns. Now I can do this at the beginning and break down the whole rhythm, or I can just work my way through rhythm and right hand on each measure. But I'm doing it as a separate process. That's the main thing. Rhythm first, then what's my right hand doing? So, but one of the things I want to pay attention to, of course, is I get familiar with what that rhythm is on my first measure. And then when I look at the next measure, I'm looking at the tab and at my tapped pattern, and I'm going, is this measure the same rhythm as the one I just played? If it is, now I know that the second measure, or in this case, the third and fourth measures, are the same rhythmic pattern as the first 1 and 2 measures. Okay? The idea here is that I'm finding out. I am not guessing. I'm not assuming that they're all going to be the same. I check each one as a kind of inventory because it informs how I'm going to play. Then I'm not guessing what the rhythm is or what the finger picking pattern is. I know. Okay? For now, to start with, we don't mind what the notes are too much. You just find the rhythm. And you can even do it by ear. Just listen to the song. But it is helpful if you look at the notes. Now when we go to measure 3 and 4, for example, in I Remember Everything, and we tap through that pattern, we identify that it is the same pattern, the same rhythmic pattern as we were using in the first 2 measures. When John Prine changes to the A minor chord, he's still playing the same rhythm. Okay, our bass note has moved to the A string, but it's the same rhythm. So it's 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and when we go to the D chord, the next two measures, we find that it's the same pattern again. This is common, but don't assume that it's always happening. Even in this song, there are places where the rhythm changes slightly. So pre-read your rhythm. Having identified the main rhythm, now it's easier to find if the rhythm changes. For example, in the instrumental interlude, we change to a straight eighth note rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The next thing we want to do, if I want to take the guesswork out of my playing, the second thing I want to do is I want to know what strings my right hand is playing. And again, this information is right on the tab. If I look at, if I just start off with fundamentals of a lot of fingerstyle guitar, we're going to find that we're often playing the bass note with our thumb. And we're playing the higher notes with our fingers, usually 2 fingers, very often. So on the first measure of G, we're going from E string to D string, E string to D string on the bass. So it's just like this. Okay, so on those and beats, that's where we're finding the melody notes that we're playing. On measure 1 and 2, we're playing in the G position, and our melody notes are all on the G string and the B string. The other notes in that first pattern are being played on the G string and B string. Here, let's look at all the notes going here. When we move to the A minor, for the next two measures, the bass note changes. So our bass note on 1 and 3 is now going to be on the A string. When we go to the A, our string use is the same. We're playing the same strings with our right hand, except the bass note. That first bass note is now on the A string instead of on the E string. Okay, and when we go to the third pair of measures, where we're on the D chord, our bass notes now are going to be on the D string and G string, and our melody notes are now going to be on the B string and E string. We've shifted our whole hand by one string. We're looking at the D chord use, and of course we're moving the whole hand across the strings. So the bass notes on the D string and on the G string, and the higher notes are on the B and the high E. And that looks like this. Okay, so the point of this brief exposition on this idea is simply to do a tiny amount of homework, okay? We want to remove the guesswork, especially when you're playing a fingerstyle piece, and especially when you are a beginner. If you look at the notes that you have and figure out the rhythm, and you can figure out the rhythm by looking at the notes and listening to the original performer, and you'll hear them playing the rhythm that is on your notes. And then we can tap it out. I like to tap it out, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and so that I understand exactly what beats I'm playing on. Once I know what my rhythmic pattern is, then I look at my song further in, measure by measure or pattern by pattern, and make sure that the same pattern is being used throughout, or that if there's a variation on the pattern, find out what it is, okay? And then of course we do go through the exact same process to figure out what job our right hand fingers are doing, which string sets we're playing on. It's simply, you know, it's like looking at a map or looking at your GPS before you head across town. You know what landmarks you're looking for, and you're not stumbling around, and you're actually going somewhere that you know how far you're going and where you're going and how you're getting there, and it makes your practice more instantly productive. Guesswork, especially when we're playing, is a disaster. Guesswork when we're learning slows us down immensely. So all we're trying to do is remove the guesswork from this process. It makes your learning time and practice time much more productive. Don't guess, don't assume that the pattern is the same all the way through, or that you're playing on the inside strings all the way through. Have a quick look at your notes and see what is the rhythm of my measure and what strings am I actually playing each of these notes on. And review it a little bit so that when you start practicing, you're working through something that you're already slightly familiar with, instead of trying to figure it out as you go. I hope that's helpful to you and answers your questions about what can we do to make our learning and practicing more productive, and how can we know in advance what's happening all the way through a fingerstyle song. We can use this method and it will give us all the information that we need. Okay. I'm going to put a link to the whole I Remember Everything lesson up here, and if you want to use that song as an example of what I'm talking about, the tab is going to be on the screen, and you can apply these ideas as you work through learning that song and see what you think, and leave me your comments. My name's Bonner. There's a couple more videos here that you can try out that are on a similar level for you to have fun with, and hope you'll come back and visit me again soon.